lawyers, translators, donations protest. And it was originally published on June 15th, but they have been continually updating the list of all sorts of organizations that are aimed at either legal support, psychological support, translators, actual donations, or opportunities for marches, protests, bringing awareness. And it's a pretty exhaustive list. No, extensive. I'm not going to say exhaustive. It's a pretty extensive list. I am pointing people to this one because it's been, like I said, continually updated over and over again. I know, at least through my social media feeds, this one particular organization, RICES, RAICES. Oh, all right, motorcycle. Or is this one of those times, Tomas, where you have your mic muted and I just made reference to something that no one else can hear?
I think people think you're listening to things, and I think you are too, because I don't know what you're talking about. No one heard that but you.
I think you enjoy making me look crazy, but that's a whole different conversation. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. So as I was saying, RICES, which is an acronym, it's RAICES. I think they had a Facebook donation button that they were able to set up, and so that organization has got a lot of money, as it rightfully should. However, there are way more organizations that are also seeking contributing support to this fight and to this effort. And so slate.com has a really good list, and it is a national list, so it includes stuff that's happening nationally, but there may be also things that are happening in your local area, in your own backyard. I mean, maybe this situation feels particularly, I don't know what's the word, close to home, because it is physically close to home. That Houston is home, soon to be home to a detention center here, and the border is not. It's a day's drive, but it's not that far from where I live, and so it feels really close to home. And I've been deeply affected by it, so I just couldn't go on and do our regularly scheduled topic without giving acknowledgement to that situation.
I'd like to add to that.
Yeah.
Don't delude yourself.
Are you talking to me directly?
Oh, no. I'm speaking to our dear listeners. I know I was doing dramatic effect.
Wait a minute.
I know.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Allow me my
I will let you have that moment. I will let you have
again.
that moment. Okay,
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry.
Here comes the pause. Don't delude yourself. Our dear listeners, into thinking, you see how that worked that time?
Mm-hmm, I do.
Into thinking that this is not a blatant act of racism. Don't play games with yourself, because I tell you what, coming from upstate New York, I've never had a problem driving up into Canada and driving back. But every time I've driven into Mexico, there have been issues. Every time. Mm-hmm. Don't play games with yourself. Ask yourself the questions. It's not just enough to say, okay, well, this is happening and this is wrong and we need to do something about it. We have to start saying, why does this continue to happen? Do your research. Look at the history. Look at how the laws have changed over time, how certain groups of people have been demonized over time, called illegals, called unwanted, unneeded. Do your research. Realize what's going on. And then arm yourself with a vote. This is an election year. 2 more years in election year. Special elections happen all the time. If you say you stand for family values, yet somehow justify the separation of a family, I'm going to suggest you find a new Jesus. This is wrong,
there it is.
Period. It's just wrong. And it has to stop.
Yes. And yes, thank you for all of that. And I didn't want to go all the way there, not because I don't.
I stay 100
there. And I know
you stay there. That's my street.
Listen, I didn't
you
want to go
find me there.
Which is
that's my zero tolerance. I have zero tolerance for the BS that you want to talk zero tolerance policy? That's mine.
So you're trying to say my previous statements were BS?
No, your previous statements aren't BS. You are a psychologist. So you are putting, and first and foremost, the minds of these children and their families at the forefront. And just as I believe that's important, we need people like you to walk into these situations and talk about the short-term and long-term damage and effects that are happening to these families and these children. We need people like me who are going to say, cut the BS. This is a simple law that can be fixed very simply if you apply the law equitably and stop targeting groups of people. Us working together makes the change.
Yes, and what I was trying to say was the reason why I didn't go all the way there is because I think the conversation is so important and complicated that I want to have a whole show on it. I didn't want to get derailed from today's show.
Booked.
And
I'll still have my anger. I'll be ready.
You will still have your anger, as you should, and I will still have my anger. Trust and believe. One of the things I do want to really highlight about what you said is this information piece, right? And really also, like, I cannot move away from this conversation, even with my different approach in having the conversation right now, without acknowledging this is not new. This behavior on the behalf of our government towards quote unquote foreigners, right? To quote unquote illegals, and determining who is illegal and who isn't, determining what is legal and what isn't, is steeped in long-standing socio-political history that is often around power, and power directed towards folks who are white and folks who have money, and increasing that power base over and over again. I am not deluded about that. I'm very clear about the history, and that we are simply repeating that again here. And it's worthy of a more involved, reflective conversation than we are able to do today with the time that we have. I also just want to reiterate, whether you are informed or not, whether you recognize this as being related to or disconnected from similar other people's struggles, for me, is less relevant than you taking the time to figure out how you can act. If you feel any bit of distress, any bit of outrage, any bit of hurt, any bit of sadness for these children or their parents, whether you can feel sadness for their parents or not, but if you feel for the children, then what I'm telling you is that you have to also be compelled to act and to do something. And I really don't care what that is, whether that's you giving $5 or whether you go to a march or whether you just co-opt a hashtag and post something on your social media. But I think we're at a point in history where none of us have the luxury to be too comfortable with allowing injustices to continue to go on. And I will leave it at that. Okay. So should we talk about ArtVArtist? I feel like I'm a little exhausted already, but I do.
And I want you to take a moment there because I think this is a great time to take a break. And when we come back, we'll talk about ArtVArtist.
Perfect.
Every 2 minutes, an American is sexually assaulted. Be the someone who gives their time. Be the someone who lends an ear. Be the someone who takes a step. This is Christina Ricci with RAINN, asking you to join the fight against sexual violence and volunteer in your community. Log on to rainn.org, that's RAINN.org, to learn how you can be the someone.
This message brought to you by the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network and this station.
Sparky the Fire Dog here. Protect your family from fire. Make sure your home has smoke alarms in every bedroom, outside your sleeping areas, and on every level of your home, even your basement. For games and activities, go to sparky.org.
We want to keep you, your family, and your community safer from fire. This message brought to you by the National Fire Protection Association and your local fire department. Visit sparky.org.
Fumar es la causa principal de muertes por incendio en el hogar. Si fuma, hágalo afuera. Use ceniceros hondos y resistentes. Un mensaje de la Asociación Nacional de Protección contra Incendios.
And we're back to Doopy Deep with Dr. Nikki.
So today we want to talk about how do you make the determination of whether you continue to support an artist's work, contributions, if you don't agree with the morality or behavior of the particular artist. So let's give some examples, shall we? So the one to me that stands out the most, or there's probably like two that stand out the most to me are Bill Cosby and R. Kelly. I think these are two figures that are particularly well known and problematic. So
can we include Roseanne Barr in that or no?
Okay, so we can include Roseanne Barr in that. And I appreciate, and I thought about her too. I appreciate you including her because the reason why I want to have this conversation is because I'm trying to talk this out for myself to figure out kind of where are those lines in the sand for me? Where are the places where I decide, nope, not going there, not crossing, and why? And where are the people that I kind of like, I don't know, maybe. So to be clear, like for me, the abhorrent behavior that these people have been convicted of and oftentimes accused of. And so for some folks, they've been accusations against them for a period of time, for instance, R. Kelly, but no prosecution, right? There was the incident that happened 15, 20 years ago with R. Kelly, and he was charged, but he was not convicted. But there's been this ongoing kind of atmosphere around him, around this pattern of behavior of sexual assault or sexual abuse of younger women that have come out in different ways over and over again. And I don't know to what extent those have ever been legally validated, right? But there's lots of stories that have come out over and over and over across the years. And so a couple weeks ago, a month or so ago, there was a campaign for hashtag boycott R. Kelly. And for folks for a while have been saying boycott R. Kelly. Like we should stop, radio stations should stop playing his music. We shouldn't listen to it, et cetera, et cetera. And I will say, back in the day when I was in college, 12 Play was my jam. Like that CD got a lot of play for me. Keep your judgment to yourself. And it so that there's not only did I like the music at the time, but I also have like nostalgia associated, like really happy, fun, wonderful, youthful, joyful times associated with that album. So then, and there's a couple other R. Kelly songs that I can think of over the years that I've been like, oh, turn it up. But have I bought an R. Kelly album before or after 12 Play? No. But folks have even been, I know lots of folks that are like, even if he comes on the radio, I turn the station. So I get not wanting to purchase his music, not wanting to go to his concerts, if you have conscionable objection to the alleged behavior. We look at Bill Cosby, and this man was convicted of how many counts of rape? Do you know?
There were so many. I honestly do.
It was a lot, right? Like it was a real astronomical amount.
I think the ones that he was actually convicted on, because conviction is different than being indicted on, different.
Right.
And some of them he could not be charged because the statute of limitations had run out. So I think it actually turned out to be 3 people who charged him at the very end who cooperated with the district attorney. And I think that's 3 separate indictments. I could be wrong in that. But while you're talking, I'm going to double check that.
You're going to find that out. Yeah. So then we have a figure like Bill Cosby, who is well past the prime in his career, but has, because of the success in his career, reached eye